So being a big nerd who is into monsters, monster toys, classic horror, monster kitsch, and owning a store where I sell monster toys and tiki mugs, one of my favorite things in the whole world is Count Chocula cereal, the cereal that defines my October. Um, Even since I was a kid, actually. Of course, the monster cereals began in about 71, thereabouts. And so, I was born in 77. So I grew up with the monster cereals. In fact, I grew up with Count Chocula being something you could actually get year round, and not just during October. And in fact, one of my core memories is my parents coming home from the wholesale supermarket with a case lot of Count Chocula cereal. It took me the better part of a year to work my way through that much Count Chocula, and the giant box had actually ended up becoming a home for some kittens that I rescued. So Count Chocula performing a very important public service there, and they've stuck with me. I don't know if that the case lot of Count Chocula was important influence in my becoming goth or anything like that. But they have carried on as a sentimental favorite because they're just such an important part of that sort of mid-century monster kitsch, right? It went through everything, including the cereal aisle. And for a while, even when I was a stulter person, I actually had a T-shirt of the famous monsters of breakfast with the faces of all the monsters. Nowadays, of course, you can only get it during Halloween, during October, if you're even lucky. Because up here in Canada, it doesn't have the same distribution as in the United States. So some years we don't get them at all. Some years we do get Count Chocula. Some years, if we're really lucky, we'll also get Frankenberry. There was one really weird year where we also got Blueberry. I don't know where that came from. Our edition of Monster Mash cereal from last year, when they did like the mixed cereal with all of them together, ours was only Chocula and Frankenberry. It didn't have the other ones in there because those usually aren't available up here in Canada. Um, for a while, it was so lean, in fact, that a friend of mine from North Carolina, when we converged on Disneyland one year and both planned our vacations together to go to Disneyland, he actually brought me some boxes of the cereal. So it's like I could take those back home with me. So it was thank you, Nate, for that one. Um, so you can imagine then being into the cereal and the cereal defining my October. I basically just eat only this for the whole month, and then once that's done, then I move on to peppermint ice cream and eggnog for the Christmas culinary season. You can imagine with this being such a big part of my childhood and being such a big part of Monster Kitchen stuff, I was very excited when I saw Jada Toys had made some action figures, some toys of Count Chocula and Frankenberry. And they've been out for a while now. In fact, they were one of the first things I got for my store back when I opened in April. So it's been a while, but I figured, I might as well make a video about it now and actually talk about them and what I like about them. So let's get looking at those figures. All right, so here we are. Here are the figures and the boxes. I've said before I collect toys, not boxes, but I'm keeping these boxes because these boxes are so nostalgic. This is the Count Chocula that I grew up with. This box right here, the classic logo, the classic fonts, the classic image of Count Chocula himself, and the classic cereal as well, because modern Count Chocula is not the same as classic Count Chocula. Originally, the cereal was made with oats. Now it's made with corn, so it does taste different. So I'm still addicted to it for the nostalgia factor, although I would say that the cereal now is not as good because, again, it's not made with the oats, so it doesn't have quite the same flavor that it did when I was growing up. Frankenberry also, original logo and everything, the classic looking box, although Frankenberry is a later addition to my fandom because Frankenberry was never available up here in Canada, at least not where I lived. So I didn't actually encounter Frankenberry until much more recently with my friends bringing me boxes when we go to Disneyland, stuff like that. So that's a much more recent addition, but factored in with the Monster Kitsch and Count Chocula and all that. The figures themselves are great. I love the sculpting. The balance on them is my only real complaint. They're not balanced very well. In fact, I had to borrow some old G.I. Joe stands that I happened to find in my collection that happen to have the same colors as the characters. So the brown here and the magenta for Frankenberry. So that lucked out. But even with these stands, they don't stand very well. Frankenberry, sorry, my hand's in the way. Frankenberry, as you can kind of see from some of the scuffs on his head here, he's taken a few dives off the bookshelf, even with the stand. So they're not balanced very well to stand up on their own, which is unfortunate for figures that are obviously collectibles. Like, I wouldn't really want to give these to a child to fuss around with, because they do have a lot of delicate points of articulation, and they don't really feel like they bend very well, very easily. I could see a kid breaking these really, really easily. So these are obviously out of collectibles. But the sculpting on them is great. Frankenberry here especially reminds me of a character from a Rankin Bass stop motion animated film. Right? You think of like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or Year Without a Santa Claus, Frosty the Snowman, those sorts of that design. I think is largely because of his belly. Reminds me a lot of the stop motion Santa Claus models from those old cartoons. But I could totally see these being like, you know, this alternate universe where Rankin Bass licensed the characters and made the Monster cereal movie or something like that. You know, instead of making Mad Monster Party, they made Count Chocula, Frankenberry, and Boo Berry the movie. So I suppose you can have a lot of fun making a stop motion of these guys. Maybe taking the old albums that they had given away in years past as a serial prize, as a bonus. They had these albums of the adventures of the Monster cereal gang, going to Hollywood and going to the disco and that sort of thing. You could actually take these figures and make a cute stop motion animation out of those. However, they're missing Boo Berry, and that's the unforgivable. The unforgivable part is that we need a Boo Berry in here, even if maybe they had thought about it. Because I can see where Boo Berry would be a difficult toy because he might not have a lot of value because he's a ghost, so it's kind of like a blob with arms. But maybe if they had included like the two parts of him as bonuses with like a build-a-figure kind of thing with these guys, then that might have been a better course of action. I do hope we get Boo Berry at some point, though. I hope these have done well enough that Jada Toys is looking at producing at least Boo Berry, maybe also Fruit Brute and Yummy Mummy. I would, even though especially Fruit Brute and Yummy Mummy, like not even on the radar. You still cannot even get them in Canada. Like I've never seen them on the shelves. Don't know what they taste like. But I would collect them as toys because, you know, get the whole set, right? Because it still has that monster kitsch value. For accessories, these guys include alternate heads. So they have heads that sort of more closely match what it is on the cereal box. So sort of the more dopey stone look like they're really stoned out on their cereals. It includes alternate heads, the more excited looking heads, and then their little cereal boxes that they can hold on to, which sometimes I pose them that way. Sometimes I pose them doing that pose that I started the video with there, where they were sort of like singing opera together. That tends to be the most popular pose. There we go. We can see the problems they have with balance and with standing up. But yeah, the boxes do fit into their hands. There we go. Helps with a little extra support as well. Yeah, not well. That's my complaint with these: the balance and you know, the delicacy with which these figures are made. Again, like I wouldn't give them to kids. They can be a little bit difficult to pose and to fit everything with. But there they are, looking very excited to be holding their cereals. Chocula here, his cape is loose, so when you replace the head, you can take the cape off if you want, or leave it on, like, of course, why not? But again, same 21 points of articulation altogether between their heads, wrists, their various ball joint swivels, knees, leg swivels, like thigh swivels, that sort of thing. Oh, stand keeps falling off. Because again, these G.I. Joe stands are not made for them. In fact, you can see it's kind of stretched out that one hole there. No, I did not intend to say that. But yeah, it stretched out the hole. It stretched out the hole on Count Chocula's foot to fit that. It would have been nice if they had actually come with stands. Um, if I was going to repackage these guys, they'd have the Boo Berry Build-A-Figure and stands. Maybe that matched the cereal boxes or something. Just because they do tend to take dives off of bookshelves. I'm actually lucky that they haven't broken yet. So, count my blessings on that front. But if you could also get them to like support each other, so they're like, being buds here. But you do get, you can do some fun poses with these different faces, and with the amount of articulation that they do have. And I mean, yeah, regardless of those flaws that I've been complaining about, they're still fantastic figures, beautifully sculpted, and just a lot of fun to have on your bookshelf as a memento of the era of Monster Kitsch and Monster Kids and the Monster cereals and what they've sort of represented. So yeah, a lot of fun, and again, I'm really hoping, Jada, if you're listening, make Boo Berry at least, and if you don't want to make him, just him, then make like Fruit Brute and Yummy Mummy and include Boo Berry as a Build-A-Figure. Just so we can get like the whole gang together. At least get Boo Berry in here. It doesn't feel complete without him. So yeah, anyways, yeah, here we go. So the monster figures.